Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of answering your vocal technique questions. My name is Armenia, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new. Like I mentioned in episode 1, I took to Instagram and asked, what do you guys want to know about vocal technique? What singing things are you struggling with? Send me all your quarrels so that we can work through them together. I got lots of wonderful responses and we dealt with breathing mechanics, vibrato, diaphragm, resonant spaces, all these wonderful and super important things when it comes to singing. So make sure you check out episode 1 above, and I also will link it in the description box below. But let's jump into the rest of your questions right now. So I got a series of questions all along the lines of chest voice, head voice, how to make them meet, how to widen the range, and how to sing consistently throughout the registers. I want to approach these subjects with a little bit of vocal science because I think it's super key for singers to understand how their body works and how sound production works. And then I'm also going to do a little bit of a reflection and analysis on how I widened my range over the years and how I dealt with these issues personally. This is not a how-to guide, but it could definitely be a place where we share our victories, and this is certainly one of mine and I'm happy to share. So on a happy vocal day, I have about a 3.5 octave range, and I absolutely will talk about my experience with range expansion, but first I really want to talk some science. I am definitely one of those annoying people that needs to know how everything works. So if you are addicted to detailed information like myself, the next 2.5 to 3 minutes should be loads of fun. Sound is caused by movements, like the plucking of a guitar string or sliding a cup across the table. These movements, however small, create sound waves that travel through the air. The speed at which it travels is always the same, the speed of sound. However, the size of the sound wave can vary. If a sine wave changes vertically, the amplitude or volume changes. If a sine wave changes horizontally, the waveform changes and that alters pitch. Longer waveforms represent
lower pitches,
and smaller waveforms represent
higher pitches.
However, it will be more accurate to call it frequencies because frequency is absolute and pitch is more relative, but more on that another time. Frequencies are measured by cycles per second of a periodic phenomenon. Higher frequencies require more energy and average power per cycle than lower frequencies do. This doesn't mean that they're louder, it just means they require more energy to exist. Now let's relate that to the voice. If frequencies are determined by cycles per second and varying amounts of power, why would singing various frequencies be any different? Obviously, I didn't figure out how to sing seamlessly throughout my registers by thinking about all this, because how would one possibly deduce the correct amount of energy to supply a given frequency? That's stupid. But what it shows is that we don't achieve different pitches by manipulating our technique, but by providing ample energy and air pressure for any given note in a register. A higher pitch simply requires more air pressure, more air power. And again, that doesn't mean it's louder, it just means that it requires more air pressure and energy to simply exist. The biggest thing that I realized while on my vocal journey to navigate these different registers is that the voice really is the voice. It's one voice. It doesn't see itself categorically. We tend to do that. And in order to find consistency throughout the registers in both intensity and timbre, I actually had to sing with consistency. And what I mean by that is that I don't use different techniques or approach my lower register differently than my upper register because I don't think in terms of registers, I think in terms of the voice and the body providing adequate air pressure for an intended frequency anywhere along the line. And the mechanics of singing don't change whether I'm in my lower register or my upper register, it's just a matter of how much air pressure is required for that frequency. So how my register widened over the years is by utilizing proper body mechanics and resonant spaces like we talked about in last week's episode, and more specific to this conversation, singing the same way throughout the registers and allowing my body to adjust the air pressure accordingly. Not by treating notes differently because of where they sit. Meanie. Lower registers are closer to speaking registers, which is why they require less energy. However, if you provide a good amount of circulating air and energy even to your low notes, they'll always sound more full and colorful. But if you don't provide circulating air pressure and energy to your high notes, you simply won't reach them because it's a requirement for the frequency. Now, when I reflect upon this subject, I truly can't remember a time where I solely focused on widening my range. It came naturally from adopting more and more healthy vocal habits. And I know here she goes again talking about air pressure and resonant spaces, but those are the mechanics of healthy vocal habits. And the more I focused on those areas and creating a pleasurable feeling when I was singing, the more ease of range I ended up with. In my experience, there was no quick passage to healthy voice expansion, but there are some exercises that come to mind when I think about how I warm up my upper register for a specific piece of repertoire that requires that range and that I'm going to work on that day. I definitely do a fair bit of light staccato, kind of touching the upper parts of my range, going back down to a more comfortable midpoint, always lightly touching and never really living there, back and forth, and maybe stretching a couple tones higher than the repertoire requires so that I have that extra room up top. Definitely doing that consistently made me more comfortable with accessing the upper echelon of my upper register way more often. And I'll share what those exercises are now, but I really want to put a disclaimer here that I learned to do these exercises and include them in my daily routines over a period of years with a very skilled teacher present. I'm super wary of those YouTube channels that freely suggest vocal exercises and claim you can learn how to sing in a week and all these crazy things, because more often than not, they're doing more damage than good because no one is there with you checking your technique and making sure you're not straining your chords. So I really don't want to be one of those channels, and that's part of the reason that I started this channel. I wanted this to be a place where we talk about the science of the voice, our vocal successes, our mutual journeys, and also just slow and steady vocal technique. That being said, if you already know how to do healthy staccato and have a bunch of these sort of exercises in your vocal arsenal, then these are some of the ones that I warm up with when I'm trying to work on my upper register. Okay, so the first exercise that I'll usually begin with in order to open up my upper register is a staccato arpeggio, ascending and descending on Ha. And I'll usually start in and around an F sharp and E. Right now we'll start with an F sharp. Here we go. And what I'll try to do is make sure that every single note is fed from below. When we first start warming up like this, nothing needs to be perfect. It's just a matter of getting the body and the mind mentally and physically ready to sing, right? So we're just seeing how the voice feels. We're warming up. This is not a performance. It's not perfect. It's just us saying, let's wake up and sing. Okay, and the next exercise that I do is the same thing, except instead of Ha, it's Na, and I add a third on top. So, here we go. No, 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 and I'll just keep going up. Okay, and the last staccato warm-up that I'll do is again an arpeggio and again on Na, except instead of doing the repeated top note as a third, it's a repeated tonic at the top. So we're going na, and the goal with this one is to keep the momentum going on that repetition. So often when we have a repeated note in repertoire, we kind of forget to keep feeding the note because it's the same note, and this exercise really helps to fight against that. We have to constantly provide more air pressure regardless of what the note is, because again, it doesn't matter where the notes lie, they all require air pressure. So here we go. No, each of those get power. No, 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 no. So I hope this was helpful as an introduction into widening our ranges, and I'll definitely do more of these in the future, but for now I feel like we'll leave it there. It's a good place to start. Right now I'm playing with 2 other video ideas and I'm not sure which one to post first, so please do let me know in the comment section below which one of these you guys want to go up first. Make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for this channel so you're notified for all the updates, and to also let me know that you like this content and want me to make more. And make sure to reach out to me on my socials. They're linked in the description box below. Thanks for watching, and I hope everyone's staying safe and enjoying their musical quarantines. We're trying, right? Okay, talk to you guys soon. Bye!